I'd like to introduce our host and psychotherapist for their series, I Am Not Okay, Kim Christing. Kim is the founder and executive director of Bay Ridge Counseling Centers and Human Strong, which is part of the Bay Ridge Circle of Care. He is an author and creator of several mental health programs in the area of mood disorder and anger management. For several years, Kim hosted a call-in national talk show called Nightlight and has appeared on numerous national talk shows speaking to the issues of mental health and relationships. Over his 40-year career, Kim has intimately worked with thousands of individuals, couples, and families to help navigate the challenges of mental, emotional, and relational health. Please welcome Kim Christing.
Thank you so much, Amy. I am so looking forward to today's episode in this series, and we're looking at competition and how it affects men's view of themselves. And let me first of all introduce Jeff Dowd. Jeff the Dude Dowd is an activist, writer, producer's representative, and a nationally recognized authority on film from script to marketing, distribution, and exhibition. Jeff was and still is a key team player in the independent film movement. Jeff was a member of the Seattle 7 protesting the Vietnam War. He was up on charges of conspiracy, and yet it was later dismissed after the prosecution's case imploded. Jeff was only 20 years old at the time. Jeff went on to work with Robert Redford to help form the Sundance Institute, where it later became the Sundance Film Festival. Around that same time, the Coen brothers connected with Jeff, where they based the character of the Dude, played by Jeff Bridges, in their film The Big Lebowski. Hence the moniker The Dude, and it stuck. And the Dude became a cult following. Jeff works with Peace Jam, where they have helped 1 million kids at severe risk find purpose through successful support and mentoring. Our second guest is Pepper Foster. In 1985, notorious twin brothers Chip and Pepper co-founded the iconic skate and surf lifestyle brand. Since then, the brand has become globally recognized for being a pioneer in the premium denim market, known for its vintage denim design, stitching, denim detailing, and comfortable fits. In 1990, Chip and Pepper landed their first TV show on NBC Universal, E! Channel, and MTV. The show gained huge popularity, and they became Hollywood stars, and their fame quickly spread. Today, Chip and Pepper continues to embody a rich heritage representing California's laid-back vibe that is rich with surf and denim subculture. Chip and Pepper are getting the band back together and focused, formidable, and young. Meanwhile, during a slight Chip and Pepper hiatus, Pepper had his eye on the iconic lifestyle magazine Easy Riders, inspired by the cult film Easy Rider. So when the original founder of the magazine was thinking of selling after 50 years, Pepper leaped into action and purchased the iconic lifestyle magazine and brand with 13 other publications such as Tattoo, In the Wind, Biker, and more. Today, he's created multiple licensing deals worldwide for Easy Riders and several franchise opportunities. Well, Jeff and Pepper, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show. When I read your bios, I think I must have slept most of my life. Man, you guys have been busy guys. You've been busy guys, and we want to talk about what drives you. Let's just start with that. What drives you most in your work and in your passions, guys? Let's start right there.
Jeff, you can go ahead, but I think at the end of the day, probably Jeff's the same way as myself. Number one, Jeff, great to meet you. And I love your story, so it's awesome. And I will have hair like you one day. Trust me, I'm working on it. But I think, to me, working every day, I don't think that the success, and maybe Jeff feels the same way, but myself, I'm frankly honest with this, I never feel that I'm successful. I don't think I've ever I've never had the ability to feel like, I guess I run on fear. That's me. I mean, Jeff might have another situation, but I always feel like I never have it, and it's not about money or fame, or I don't know. It's something inside that I wake or how I sleep, and I just run on fear.
What do you mean you run on fear? What do you mean by that? You run on fear?
I run on fear that I won't be able to make it. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure. Well, make what? What do you want? What make what?
I mean, like fear. Like I'm scared of not being able to do it. Meanwhile, maybe I've done or not done it, but that fear has been basically the drive of me trying to be successful and trying to be happy with my wife, my family, my kids. But I think fear is a huge, on anything. Like I feel inside I can do anything, but at the end of the day, that fear drive is very strong.
I love it
all the time.
So I can do anything, but I'm afraid.
Yeah, or I can do everything, but I have fear of not succeeding, not because I can't do it, just I don't want to fail.
Okay. And so failure, being afraid of failing is something that plays in your mind.
Yeah, because like Jeff and myself, I don't want to be a loser. I know who I am. I'm confident in myself, and I've been successful in that. But I think at the end of the day that, fear is a drive that I feel that even though I've been successful and where I am in my life, even with Easy Riders, I love the brand. I think the brand's a super brand, but yet I don't want to let anyone down, because in the biker world or that community is massive, and I don't want to let any of those people down because I took on a huge chunk. I mean, my mouth's only so big. Meanwhile, I'm dragging a dinosaur across, the ice.
Right. Well, and Jeff, you're no newbie to taking on a challenge. Whenever I think of your story with Vietnam and at 20 taking on that huge machine and going against not the culture, I guess. And so you're not much afraid of a fight.
There are certain people that are trying to say, how can we work together as opposed to compete? Now, mostly that's coming from women right now. And I don't want to say mostly. It's coming a lot, but a lot of women are getting that, okay? And they understand that. So that's kind of one of the things.
So do you think, men have been thought to compete or be competitive, but I do think research would show that both men and women are competitive, but they compete in different ways. So is that what you're kind of referring to, Jeff?
Yeah, we'll get into this. Look, I'm trying to work on solutions, and one of the solutions I'm working on is trying to, I've been around visionaries, fortunate to be around them all my life, and sought them out and been in the right place at the wrong time or the wrong place at the right time. And so we're taking the next step, and it's called Our Classic Tales and Solutions to Fuel Our Imagination in the Future. So seek Facebook and it's storytelling. Every 3-year-old and 5-year-old can tell a story, but it's a chance to use storytelling in a new way. This will, make Facebook kind of obsolete and all that kind of stuff. In other words, in a way we can communicate, and everybody can communicate the solutions of their own tales, our classic tales. Okay, so to show how we can work together. Okay, now if you want to go back, you're a psychologist, psychiatrist. You certainly know who R.D. Laing is. Right? Mm-hmm. Who I was hanging with when I was 17 in London, but another story. But what he talked about, whether you like him or not, is how certain things in families caused schizophrenia and other problems. Okay, and what I'm going to say is, I don't think it's innate for men to compete and not for women and stuff like that. It's the way society has organized itself. Okay, and it's organized itself in a real bad way in some ways, and real good way, and real paradoxical way in other ways. My father, economic historian, would refer to our economy as the casino economy. What happened yesterday on Wall Street? You guys know what happened. well, some company in China, it's a real estate company, is over leveraged, and because of that, as the New York Times said today, they're using the L word, like as in Lehman Brothers, 2008. Okay, so it's that competition. How can a man work together except on short term when you're in a casino economy and you can make the biggest money by selling short or taking advantage of this, or this is why you have all these things like Robin Hood and memes thing. So we have a system that actually drives people to potentially, if you want to survive or you want to win, you're probably going to do it at somebody else's expense. In fact, you are going to do it at everybody else's expense, lots of people's expense. Okay?
Well, let me interrupt there. And that's a great point in that, when we talk about competitiveness in America, North America, we seem to have this flagship song called "We Are the Champions," my friends, and you know how it goes, but it says over and over, we are not losers. We will never be losers. We'll fight to the end. And you're right. There's this duality that we are against them. And if someone has to win, someone has to lose. The only problem is only one gets to win. And most of us feel possibly like we're losing because of any NFL or anybody out there. There's more teams losing than winning in the championship. And we don't feel like we're succeeding together. Does that seem to separate us as men? Or that's a great question. Have we learned to find the win-win? We certainly talk about the win-win, or is that just something we say in business in order to try to seal a contract or something?
It's both because it's complex. But go ahead, Pepper. Why don't you take a stab at
No, I know. I think today with women in business and everything that's happening, I think they're like just what we're doing, like in the magazine. They're extremely powerful. They work their butts off, and the competition now is not just, it's all of us. I mean, in the 50s and 60s, obviously it was Leave It to Beaver, but I think that times have changed, and some of the most powerful people in the world, and I listen. I got to be honest. When I was younger, my mom was an actress, my dad was a stuntman, but my mom was a really competitive woman. She was she was on stage. She was in show business. She grew up on the lots of Columbia. She was under the Battle of 10 Flags, the Joe Louis story. There's so many different movies, but she worked her butt off. She never stopped, and she kept on going. But I think today and where we are, I think it's an extremely competitive society. Yeah, and I do agree with saying about what happened to the L word. Yeah, I think China's extremely powerful, man, and they got another one in line. One goes down, there's another one ready, man. It's extremely powerful.
We're at a time right now where, and it's unparalleled in everybody on this call's lifetime, okay, which is a systemic change in a major way. The 60s and all that stuff was not very much systemic change. Some system, in other words, systemic change is, when, laptop computers come out and stuff like that, systemic change, okay? But in the internet and things like that. But there's not. Right now, every system is going to change. Energy is going to change. Transportation is going to change. Did you see that thing I put on Facebook today about the Chinese train that goes, 650 miles an hour or something like that, and it's quicker than going on an airplane from Shanghai to Peking, and 12 hours quicker than, why don't we? But every system is going to change. Transportation, education, financial system, everything, okay? All this stuff with meme stocks and Robin Hoods, it's all rocking and rolling right now. So the question is, and with climate change on there, which is no joke, and anybody living in all kinds of places. I mean, imagine being on this Gulf Coast anywhere, okay, as many of my friends are and stuff like that, and John Batiste and all his friends from New Orleans and stuff. Or, California where we live. I mean, right now they're fighting to save the sequoias. And all this stuff is climate related, not 100%, but much of it is. That was lightning there. But the point is, we're at systemic change. And the question is, are we going to have better systems that help us all or not? And I want to say one thing about complexity. Huxley said, and I'll paraphrase it, the truth lies at both extremes at once, very often side by side. Okay, so, there's good in everything, and there's also a complexity. So how can we make it all better to benefit everybody?
Hey, Jeff, one question.
Well, I like.
Sorry, Doc. Go ahead.
Well, I love what you're talking about with complex theory and et cetera, but I think you're absolutely right. In my work, I am interested and concerned about the complexity of the ability to adapt, where we used to compete in our own little area, when we used to only compete with one or two dynamics. Now we're playing chess, three-dimensional chess in all kinds of areas within business, within all those systems. And psychologically, emotionally, relationally, are we going to be able to adapt, and at what cost? And so we have people like Simone Biles, who probably will put me to shame in terms of how she has dedicated herself to a competition in gymnastics, who steps down and says, my mental health is more important than the gold medals. And she recognizes the complexity of our emotional, psychological, that it's connected to my physical. And so it's interesting. I like what you're saying in terms of the huge complexity of competing in a healthy way, because it does make us do better or perform better, but it also has a tipping point that's very concerning, at least from my desk and from my office, with how this generation is experiencing anxiety, depression, relationship issues, and just being able to cope. And so, how do you guys manage that? Have you ever worked and looked at something so hard that felt overwhelmed or overcome in your work in that complexity?
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go, Perry.
No, I number one, I do want to come back to Jeff for a second. I do, in the competitive nature of which I'll get to that question and answer it. But sequoia trees are my favorite.
What are sequoia trees, Pepper?
The sequoia trees, they're one of my favorite trees. I love them. But
one of my favorite trees. One of my favorite.
I like redwoods. I love trees.
Anyhow.
Well, we have something in common. I love trees. Weird.
No, you know what? To be honest with you, no bullshit. No, sequoias are extremely powerful. I'm like a little gnome running around. I'm small, but I'm mighty and a fighter. So, but when I'm around them, they're extremely powerful. But sequoia trees can only produce themselves if there's a fire, like you said, lightning, because they need the whatever they are, the pine cones to go down, the seeds pop, and they go around. The wind blows, and hopefully, God bless them, there's new sequoia. Well, same like a mushroom. The mushrooms they've been under this earth for 30,000 years, and now coming up when I'm around, like why? It's bizarre. So I think at the end of the day, everything's competitive, right? So, we're always going to fight climate change, all this stuff that you're talking about. And it is real, because I noticed the temperature change. We're in a place where usually it's, 15 Celsius, and yesterday or the day after it was 29 Celsius, which is double the average. So yeah, shit's happening.
So going back to that, guys, whenever you are competitive and you are driving, like you were talking about, fear drives you, and that can't be good for you physically. To experience fear that much, we do know that that's not healthy for us. We do know that sets off the fight-flight response in order to compete, which is normal in some ways, in a sense, for competition. So competition, we know, has value to it, moves us forward evolutionary in that sense, or just in our own competition. It is a very positive thing, but there's a tipping point. And so do you ever feel that exhaustion or that tiredness? Because you must experience it, Pepper, in your body.
I would say, Jeff, maybe he's better than I am, but I'm being completely honest. I have the utmost energy. I can go all day nonstop. I'm a hunting, killing machine. I can work all day, but when I go to sleep, now that fear starts going in my head. So I lie down in bed and then I go to sleep for a minute. Maybe I'll have a beer or I don't really drink wine, but I'll have a beer or something. And then kind of make me whatever lackadaisical, I'll lie down. But then I sleep like shit. I used to sleep like a baby. Now today I sleep like shit because like even last night, I just think and think and think and think and think and think.
With me.
And so how do you stop it?
I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I was going to go back to the question, but I mean, I do melatonin, for example, and stuff like that, and smoke a little pot at night. Yeah. Anyhow, part of my motivation comes from worrying, which I got in as an inheritance from my grandma Ada, whose husband Sam Druskin invented the epidural, which every woman who's ever been pregnant will think he is the god who walked on this earth. He also marched into Israel with Allenby of, Lawrence of Arabia fame and started the first hospital there funded by the Rothschilds. And he also perfected the cesarean section. He dies at 51. He starts, because he's Jewish, he can't have hospital privileges in New York, even though he went to Cornell Med School. Or Columbia Presbyterian. So he starts his own hospital, 123rd and next to Fifth Avenue, which is a whole block long. Okay, so Jews could go there. I mean, if you're doing a OBYGN guy, you better have a hospital, right? I mean, you don't have to, but it helps. Anyhow, so when he dies at 51, Grandma Ada has to take over the thing, and she becomes this huge worrier, and that I get inherited through my mother and her, etc. Now, the good news about worrying is if you're a producer of any kind, or that doesn't necessarily mean movie producer, but if you're producing anything, magazine, and you've got deadlines always, the magazine comes out on a certain day, I'm going to come out a little later this month. So the worrying is a very good thing for, pre-production and planning and things like that, which is that anybody who does a movie knows you better have it all figured out in pre-production. So by the time you arrive at set, it's nothing to do, no surprises with that. Anyhow, except good ones with actors and stuff. But I got a lot of that in that way. Okay. And that was, I like Pepper. I have a tremendous amount of energy I happen to be drinking a little bit of coffee now, but I have a phenomenal amount of energy, which keeps me going, all the time, And I don't know where that comes from exactly.
So in that energy, is that unique to you? Or do you guys, let's flip this around. When we talk about competition, especially, competition requires us to create some kind of standard of comparison. And so that usually means others. Do you guys compare yourself to other people?
I personally, maybe that's the loser in me. I don't. Even in when I did TV and show on NBC or MTV, all the stuff that I've done, and then even Easy Riders, that's why I think the fear is, I've never fit. It's so weird, even though, on the outside world, like someone looked in, yeah, I'm successful. But on the inside, I don't see that because I'm like the egg in the shell. So I don't feel like myself successful, but I think the opportunities are like with Easy Riders. One of the reasons why I want to buy the brand and do the brand. Number one, it's a fabulous brand, been around 50 years. It's a cool ass American brand. And my biggest thing is I don't want to see it fail because I actually believe in the brand so much. So I'm invested in it. So I actually don't get tired. I'm not stressed on that level. I think the biggest stress is the people in your organization. Like Jeff said, when he shows up to set, and just like all of us, like Amy also, wouldn't it be nice to come up to set and everything's together? You got craft dinner, you got craft dinner, you got craft service, you have craft service, you have the actors ready, everything's set up, the lighting's set up, but you come there as the actor, you show up, you do your shot, and you're gone. But to go there and then wait 2-3 hours because this, that, blah, 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 yeah, you get frustrated. So the same in my business or in the fashion business or the Easy Riders, the publishing business. Yeah, we have timelines, deadlines, and what we have to do. And, it's so funny. Like guys like Norman Reedus or whoever wants to be on our cover, they mean a lot. And that means a lot for us as a magazine. And, but I don't use that as like the hook for someone to be on, because a lot of stars want to be on the cover of Easy Riders. I'm not saying they're wrong or right. But, I guess at the end of the day, it's like Jeff said, and Amy's on the phone. Amy's on here too, that if you need the right people, if you have the right people that don't trip you up when you're walking the set, or the makeup person sticks the freaking makeup brush in your eye, so now your eye's all fucked up. Like there's a lot of shit like that. So at the end of the day, if you have the right people, I think then you're successful. But if you have guys tripping you up, throwing barbed wire, throwing landmines, grenades, it's extremely tough.
Look, I mean, I'm all for competition. Competition is a good thing. But, go back to starting to think about for kids. The question with competition is, are the losers better after the competition, or are they destroyed? Take two extremes, okay? Do the losers benefit in a game or something, or a financial thing or something, an endeavor, or were they destroyed entirely? And that's the change we have to make, so that and to make sure that competition is a good thing. And yes, you can become a millionaire, zillionaire. Yes, you can do this. Yes, we cherish entrepreneurship for sure. It also comes down to teamwork, okay? And learning how to have good teams is everything in every business. Our CBD business, we're doing Dude's Dream. The team we put together, 10 people, is phenomenal. I mean, from research people to the people providing the stuff,
wow,
to stuff like that. It's a phenomenal team. And we will, be doing all kinds of things that help people be better, feel better, with the product.
So it sounds like for both of you, I found that interesting. There are other people, and you mentioned this, Pepper, but both of you is kind of saying the same thing from your history. You better be motivated by the right reason. In other words, other people might see as successful. Now they might be competing or comparing themselves to you and see you successful, but you're saying, it always seems to me that you have a purpose, or you're driven to find some purpose, and that gives you lots of energy. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
It's the why in the work. Why are you doing this? You believe in the brand.
Yeah.
But you're also saying the complexity means that to do anything very significant today, you better be working with others.
Yeah.
I think it's a team effort. It's like Jeff, Jeff's probably a lot like me. I'm watching him right now and I see how he is. Like I'm being honest. I love Michael Jordan, but I don't want to be Michael Jordan. Okay. In my head, that's not who I am. I'm happy with myself. I'm confident with myself. I made a lot of bad decisions, a lot of bad mistakes, but they also critique on what you do and make you a better man and make you better and competitive, and maybe listen to more and take your time with different opportunities instead of fucking knowing everything, because, and when I was younger, when I moved to Hollywood and shit, I knew everything. You can tell me shit, So at the end of the day, did it help me? Yeah. It also probably hurt me too, because I was young. I was younger, back then it was like, when we were young, we didn't have the cell phone, the technology. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Google. We didn't have nothing. Everything was a word of mouth. I heard about Jeff. Jeff heard about me. Oh my God, let's meet. We'll meet you at the Sunset Room, or we'll meet you at, Rainbow Club, have a pizza. Like that's how it worked. and you had the big brick pizza. I mean, you know, to ask for someone's phone number, it wasn't like today. Today, it's instant gratification. You can hammer someone on TikTok or whatever and say things that Jeff was mentioning. It's so quick today. I'm not on social media personally. I mean, do I own my name on social media? Yeah, I got 4 followers. I don't really care. But in my head, I'm not that guy. You know, I don't need to be Nicki Minaj with 22 million followers or, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, would it work? Maybe I'm stupid. But on the competitive nature, 100%, most of these kids now are in that world. So,
Pepper, whenever you were young, did you spin out of control in any way when you say you made mistakes and you now have kind of, did you ever spin, you were running hard and fast, I assume?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we drank a lot of beer. I didn't really do drugs at all. But, you know, most of my friends, and when I was growing up in Hollywood, you know, from, you know, like everyone, like, you know, the days of Guns N' Roses and Chili Peppers and all that, and Chad and all those guys, we were all a pretty tight group, but we drank a lot and had fun. But, you know, that was kind of, it was really fast, actually. If you think about it today with my kids and stuff, it was extremely fast. So, yeah, I was going full tilt, and yeah, you sometimes hit a wall and then you're not as good as the next day, but you kind of get up, pick up the pieces and charge, you know?
Okay. And has things changed? Are you still running hard?
I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think I run on fear, and I'm married. I have 2 beautiful kids. I take care of my mother-in-law, and I still run hard. I enjoy a few beers and have fun, and love to laugh and be playful. But at the end of the day, like I know branding, I know how to market, and I think at the end of the day, you know, as we get older, you know, there's another young buck, you know, who's, you know, in the late 20s or early 30s that, you know, you kind of move on, but you can't be the old dinosaur. You got to just kind of be the slow, tough, mighty, you know, chap in the pen.
And you know, one thing I don't want to do is die of terminal boredom. So a lot of what I was doing is seeking out, you know, the action wherever it was. And the younger you were, or various periods of time, the less discriminating you were in terms of health and all kinds of other stuff. Okay, needless to say, you know, I mean, I grew up around a bunch of, you know, middle-class kids who stole cars to go on joyrides and then took them back, you know, into New York City, and then took them back the next day fully gassed, so people wouldn't know their car was missing. Okay, you know, anyhow. But what I'm saying is this whole team thing is very important. I'm working with one other team thing. I'm working with a woman named Chesley Himesfield. We met when we were doing Louisiana Film Festival together, and John Batiste was down there with us and stuff. And we're doing something on AME, which has to do with the brain and spinal stuff freezing, and about at least 12 million people have this right now, and not too many people know about it. And I'm working with Dr. Amy Mack out of Stanford and people in Harvard and Louisiana and stuff, and we're about to get the word out on this, because what happens is the doctors often give the wrong advice. Like, speaking of competition, they'll say, try hard, work hard. Oh, you're tired, you're a 3-year-old, you're tired, but, you know, go up the hill. There's a bunch of ducks up there. You'll love them. Keep going. Wrong with the people that have this. It's actually the worst thing to do, push themselves. So we're getting the whole thing out, and you'll hear a lot about it shortly on this ME stuff. It's exciting, but in this case, we're saving lives on day one. Okay, and so, you know, so the stakes are high, is what I'm saying. A lot of these things you're doing, you know, and even a movie can save a life, or a TV show, because it inspires somebody to do something rather than maybe the destructive stuff they were going to do to themselves. Okay, and they get on a different path. So you know, it's very important.
One of the things about we talked about doing things for the right reasons and knowing the whys in your life. Sometimes when we are successful, or whatever that term is in some of our work,
Sure.
We sometimes so focus on what we do well at, we are not focusing on what we suck at. So we've all been to the gym where you see the one guy that's just pumping the irons and has got great biceps, but he's got a 42-inch waist, or he can't do any cardio, but he loves his arms exercises. And so you guys ever pay attention to the things you suck at emotionally, relationally, spiritually, psychologically? Or do you really just spend all your time at the thing you're scared of? In this case, Pepper, you're, doing whatever you need to do for your brand or the magazine or for your causes. You guys pay attention to the things you don't think you're doing well at?
Sure. I don't know what that specifically the answer is to that right now.
Okay.
What do you suck at, Jeff?
Well, no, there's always. I've gone through some medical challenges in the last 4 or 5 years. I had a bad draw on a doctor's about 11 or 12 times, and so I went to the doctor screwed up. Is what I'm saying. Okay. Some of the guys in the country.
Bad draw. I get it.
Yeah. And hence, for example, I was in rehab at one point for 2 months, not for drugs, to learn how to walk again. I learned how to go to the bathroom again. Okay, because the doctor screwed up on a 2.5-hour laser tropic hernia operation. So got to 2 months later. Okay, so during that, so one of the things I'm having to concentrate on now is getting back in shape, and all that kind of stuff. When I was living in Santa Monica, Venice Beach. We had a border collie. I'd skate with the border collie, 8 miles a day or stuff like that, so so getting in shape is one thing.
What do you suck at?
Well, I think, some spiritual things I could be doing a little bit better. I'm very spiritual in some ways, but for example, I'm not meditating. And maybe I should get into that more. I'm all set to start doing it, and I know how to do it and all that. I'm not talking about this like TM as much as just meditating, at home and stuff like that. But
well, I don't know, but most of us, it's human nature to focus on one thing and ignore the other, right? The more focused we are on something, that we tend to end up not focusing on something else. And so some of us don't focus on our relationships. Some of it don't focus on our own emotional or internal world inside. We're not paying attention to our physical health or our emotional health. And so do you tend to not do that?
Well, I could do more in terms of various relationships I have, with friends and stuff, obviously during these COVID periods in time too. And I can listen better, I think, too. That's very important, I don't know, what do I suck at? I suck at all kinds of stuff. I wish Jill was here. My better half was here. She's doing an art thing right now. She could help me out on this one. Or I could put my kids on, my daughters, Keely and Annabelle. I could help her, Yeah. Plenty of things, I got work to do.
Well, I think we better know what we suck at. What about you, Pepper?
No, I it's so funny. That's why I can laugh. Jeff's kind of right. I suck a lot of shit. I think I suck a lot on the spiritual level, which I'd love to get into. My wife, she's really good when she, we meditate, and I can't meditate that long. I get too crazy and antsy. I'm good for maybe 5 to 15 minutes, but I know guys that can meditate for 2 hours and the the smell and the crystals and all that stuff, which I think is important. And it does, by the way, it does calm me. I also suck at, obviously, relationships, and kind of what Jeff said, listening. I need to listen more. And I've been actually kind of getting better at that. I've spent 35 years in Southern California. COVID, obviously, put us in a position where I have a wife and 2 kids and a grandma, and live in one house while they're doing online school. Fucking sucks. Okay. And so everyone's in your face. Everyone's got this, everyone's listening, or someone stole the remote. So it's been kind of difficult, but
neglect.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, but I suck at a lot of things. I think that I think I suck at homework. Like, as I should have learned that in high school and university, because I always kind of skated through that, being, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, fun in the sun, and somehow skated through it, but I passed and I did very well. But at the end of the day, like, when there's a project that needs to be done, it's delayed, it's procrastinated, and then I delay. Then at the 11th hour, then I kind of whip it all together. And yeah, is it great? Yeah, it's okay, but probably. So yeah, I think that's what I need. I need more management in myself as a person, like manage myself, not just everything else.
Do you think there's? Yeah, so we're really talking about some internal control. There's a sense of you haven't been able to manage internal disciplines. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so too. And I grew up a different way. Like, Jeff's in show business. I'm in show business. My family, I grew up in the whole life. Like, I don't know. I'm used to my mother getting ready to, in Vegas or whatever, being a showgirl, like getting ready to go out at, sleep till like 3, get up at 4, get ready to go to the studio or show business at 7 or 8 at night, have a big dinner or whatever, go out, and then she doesn't come home till 4 or 5 in the morning. And my dad was a stuntman and he was never home. Everyone, I kind of grew up on really with the mother. So at the end of the day, yeah, the discipline level, yeah, sucked. So there wasn't someone to say, hey, don't do this. I mean, we did whatever we wanted, like, Okay. I'd make poached eggs and pork chops at 4 in the morning. Like, no one cared.
Right. So there was kind of this organized chaos.
I would say, yeah, it's like a bunch of boats in Saint-Tropez trying to get the only slot.
So what I'm hearing is that the way you experience your early days is a little bit like how you live in your head now.
Probably. I'm probably a messed up human being mentally, not mentally, but like the way I think what's right or wrong or how to do things is I know what's right or wrong. I've always been, never to screw someone around or, street smart that way. Like, I'd never do that ever. That's in me. But I mean, maybe there's certain things that you do in life or business that maybe you should have done something another way, or maybe you should have tried a different way without kind of saying that you already have this done. Because I think that growing up with a single mother and a dad that was a stuntman who's, you kind of grew up on your own, right? Like you and my mother traveled. So we'd be I went to 15 different frickin' schools, that was every year. So I had to meet a new friend. We'd be in LA, then we'd be in Chicago, then my mom would be in Brussels, then she'd be in Toronto, then she'd be in Winnipeg, then she'd be in Vancouver, then she'd be in Burlington, then she'd be back in LA. Like, it's a shit show.
So one of your strengths must be meeting people.
Well, that's what I think I'm good at now, because I think at the end of the day, I have a twin brother, identical. I think that, number one, we didn't need anyone, number one. Number two is I went to 15 different high schools in 15 different years, 15 different schools. The only school I ever stayed at, one was 4, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. But during those years, yeah, you had to be forced to meet someone. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
One of the things, speaking of school, one of the things I'm bad at, that I wish I was good at, was in 10th grade, I went to summer school to do typing class, right?
Okay.
It lasted 2 days, of course, okay? My friends were out partying and stuff like that, and, I was going to go to some... Anyhow, so I wish I could have done that in the year of everybody doing that. Look, I had parenting that was kind of slightly remote. My father was a professor at Cornell. My mother was a teacher, and they weren't... they got married on literally the eve of him going out to World War II. And by the time that was over, didn't have that much in common. They thought they could have a kid and that would help bring them together. That's me. It didn't work, okay? And years later, they split up and all that kind of stuff. But they weren't the best of parents. They weren't the worst, but they were kind of like slightly remote and all that kind of stuff. So I have 2 wonderful daughters, Keely and Annabelle, and who are now, older, 29, 26. But to me, it's been very important, and I think I've failed at times and done really well at times with my daughters, and been very conscious. As their mother, Jane, has been very, very good. Who we split up years ago, but she's very good with the kids. And the point is, to me, that's still ongoing of how much I can be there for my kids, because in certain ways, they have ways I can be there for them now, and stuff like that. So that to me is a high priority of how we all can, I was with Jill overseeing her grandkids the other day, how we can all relate to kids and be there for them and not fail the kids, just in personal levels as well as systemic levels, like, climate change. Obviously, we don't want to leave a planet for the kids that's, affected by that. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that there's some things that were absent in our own childhood that you're trying to work through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. Hey, 1940 or 1939, when your parents got together, because of World War II, right?
World War II, yeah. They got together, right at the 42 or something like that. And I was born in 49, by the way. So they came back.
Wow. You look fantastic.
Oh, gracias, señor.
Oh, gracias. ¿Qué pasa, amigo? ¿Qué estás haciendo? But you know what? It's so funny because my father was a stuntman, and my dad started a pickle company. So my dad, we're Jewish, right? So, our family started a pickle company in 1938. Wow. It's a fabulous story. They came from Europe, and they end up selling horseradish door to door in a small western town called Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, like really tiny. And but they started coming, and it's today it still exists. Elman's,
really?
E-L-M-N-S. And they're famous for horseradish, hot mustard, beet horseradish, herring, pickles. Long story short, my dad was a stuntman, and he, this is what he told me. He loved Hollywood, and he chased my mother down there because my mother, a guy named Monty Hall, chased my mother down there to L.A. And my dad got jealous, so he jumped on a bus or a train, and then he booted down there. But he actually hated the pickle business, and how
could anyone hate the pickle business? Really? Come on.
But he this is what he told me. He goes, Dad, son, I didn't really want to come back. I was in show business, and he's doing stunts for Burt Lancaster. He's in show business on the Columbia lot. He's on this lot. It's show business, man. He loved it. And so then he end up coming back running a pickle company.
I've got a classic tale from that airfield north of Winnipeg. Which is
that airplane that landed.
Well, yeah, but I was there too. But the airplane that landed because they fueled up wrong.
Yeah, from Toronto, landed in Gimli or north of Gimli. Yeah,
Gimli. Well, the deal was that they. 1 minute on this one. They fuel. It was a new plane, and they fueled up on gallons rather than metric. And flying around, going to, I believe, Vancouver, and they realize they're running out of fuel, and they go, okay, we'll try to make Winnipeg. But it looks like they're not going to be able to make Winnipeg. So somebody says there's this fucking airfield there, Gimli, which was a World War II place, which I knew because I'd done a thing with Russell Crowe there and stuff like that. And anyhow, anyhow, so they're coming in there. Well, what they didn't realize, and there was no contact with anybody. There's no airfield. There's nobody there. There's no cops there. So here's this plane coming in, gliding, by the way, to last, whatever miles, 50, 100 miles. Well, the thing is, on Saturday on the airfield, guess what's happening? Every kid in the world is out there drag racing and bicycling on this abandoned airfield. So here comes this plane, totally silent, and nobody sees it coming in. And they got one shot and one shot only, and they go right past the kids, on the wheels and stuff like that. Stuff like that. But it's a classic tale. Anyhow, yeah.
What did you do with Russell Crowe there? I'm interested. What did you do with Russell?
There's a movie, don't go on a quiz show with me, not almost. It was a World War II movie about pilots training that Kim did, the director from Winnipeg, about pilots training to go to the RAF. But they were trained there at the Gimli and then went to the RAF in England. and that's what it was. And it was it's a wicked IMDb, but it's about how he falls in love and all that kind of stuff. Needless to say with wrestling, but anyhow, yeah.
So tell me, gentlemen, just in our closing, I'd like one more question, guys. And I really appreciate the time. This has been a lot of fun. This has been insightful, great connections and stories. I love it. Can I just ask you, what has competition? How has it served you well, and how has it not served you well?
You take it. No, you take it.
Okay, how it served me well. Well, competition. I mean, in an odd sense, in the show business thing, you have to be real good for your whatever it is, your film, your TV show, etc. Look, most of the marketing I did, and I was involved in a lot of great films, marketing them, were word of mouth films, to be really clear. Okay, it was also before internet at first too, and so we would literally give away 3,000 tickets just to, from one theater to make the word of mouth. So I worked in a word of mouth business. So for me, things had to be really good for the word of mouth to be really good. Okay, in activism, boy, you got to be really good because you're dealing with lots of times very powerful interests. Our Seattle 7 thing, I mean, the President of the United States was on our case every day, if you can believe that, because he was such a paranoid guy. We were the test case for 41 other cases about to crush the anti-war movement. We beat their ass, and, so the charges were mistrial and eventually dropped, but only dropped because of Watergate, by the way. But when half these guys, like the Attorney General, going to jail, so couldn't prosecute us anymore. Anyhow, but the point was, in activism, particularly when you deal, let's say, with racial stuff these days, boy, talk about complexity, and everything that's going on, and I could, any one of us on this call, I could say, okay, and anybody could talk about how complex it is going on with the racial stuff and how it's being exploited and how people are fearful and, what's going on in insurrections and borders and all this stuff. And so you really have to, be very good, because in this case, you're competing with untruths and lies and fear. You're competing with fear when in the racial stuff is what you're really competing with. So you have to help people. And we've done tons of organizing of Trump-like people. Believe me, during the Vietnam era, there were plenty of people who had kids in Vietnam that didn't want to see him invade, were very pro-war, that turned out against the war, okay? So people, and there were racists too, and so people can be organized and change, but you better be really good. That's the competition. You better have something to say, and you better be able to bring people together and create new teams so people, So in that sense, even in activism, competition is very important. And in that case, it's competition to get to the truth and get to inspiration and get to comfort for people and well-being so they feel secure.
So I like that a lot, in that to fight, that's quite the enemy, fear. And to be able to overcome fear with truth, and truth is obviously the sense of strength. And that kind of goes back to whenever we're at work or whatever, the why we do what we do. We better have that real, what I'm hearing from you, Jeff, is that we need to really understand and be able to be very clean and clear in that communication of why we do what we do. And that, the better we are at that, the more likely we not only will win, because we ultimately, hopefully, believe that truth will overcome fear, and we're constantly pursuing that truth, and we need to seek after that and understand it. But that's excellent. What about you, Pepper? The things that competition have taught you well, or things that you have not, it hasn't served you well?
I like what Jeff said. I think being a twin is a little bit different than a normal person. So when I say I'm not single, that means I'm not like, I haven't been brought up like by myself. Like maybe Jeff, are you a twin or no?
No, but Jill, my better half, has 2 twin daughters.
There you go.
Who I was just with, and who are mid-30s, etc. Identical twins.
Yeah, so I'm identical twin. So twins are very different. Number one, even though it's kind of really crazy, but it's actually very competitive between twins in a house. So the competition starts right when we're 0 of age, 2, 1, 2. So the competitive edge, like he wrestled, we played lacrosse, I played hockey, we surfed, we skateboarded. You know, I used to skate every day, and there was always a competitive edge. We skied, we snowboarded, but Chip was better in air, and I was better on bumps, or I was better going extreme skiing. He was better at jumping out of a helicopter backwards. I mean, I did ski movies, all that shit. So that is all in me. And I don't even think it's jealousy. When I see some young punk 32 years old that's running a huge company and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, inside, I don't know, maybe I'm an old man, but inside I go, like, this kid is a punk. The way he's talking, the way he's disrespectful to people and stuff. And I think that competitive edge makes you hype up. It doesn't matter what race you are. It's just inside you, that the competitive edge, and that's what you are and what we do. Like a wrestler or a MMA fighter or a boxer or what have you. It's the same in business. You know, no one wants to do better. Just, you know, we want to make the best gene and be proud of the best gene or the best magazine, or like Jeff makes the best movie or whatever. Yeah, but you know, competition is fierce. That's why they do the Golden Globes. That's why they do the Oscars. It's competition, you know, and the winners kind of filter to the top, don't they? Like quickly, like an artist. You don't really have to pick a new artist. The artists in the world have already been there. You know, the Warhols or the whatever they are. You know, they're already out there. They're already winners. They're already voted winners. So it's pretty hard to compete against that. But I think the competitive nature in all of us is no matter what anyone says, we all have it. You do, Doc. Jeff has it. I have it. We all have it. And without that, then you're just a weakling. You need that. You got to be up strong and be there ready. Even if you lose, yeah. It's like what Jeff said earlier about losers. Yeah, losers, what do? Do they commit suicide? Do they do this, do that, or do they get better? I don't know. But I think competition and competitive nature, it sucks, but we need it to make us better.
And you look quickly, look at the Emmys, for example, and how the winners all embraced the losers because they said we're, particularly the women, doing that. But even somebody like Bill Harburg with the Queen's Gambit and stuff like that, and that whole cast, they were all talking about how we do these things together. And you may not be up here, we may have won, but we're part of the same thing, okay? And that's very important that they're doing that, you know.
Thank you to you two, gentlemen. It's been a lot of fun, and wish we had more time for. I mean, we could wax stories and probably entertain each other for a long, long time. Sure. But thank you so much for your time, and all the best in all your work.